Good morning, students.
Morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Okay, so in the last two classes, we were discussed about the Newton's laws of motion. We can kindly recall all these two laws, and after that, we can move to the next law. So, starting with Meherin, Newton's first law of motion. Unmute and say, I can hear.
An object remains in a state of rest or uniform motion and by applied force.
Okay, until or unless it is changed that state by an external force. Okay, Navaneet, the Newton's first law of motion is also known by one more name. What's that? Same question, John Joes.
Law of inertia.
Then what do you mean by inertia?
Inertia is the inability of an object to change its state of rest or motion.
Okay, it is the tendency of an object to remain in a state of rest or state of motion, or it is an inability of an object to change its state of rest or state of motion. Okay, very good. Then Jewel, give any two application of Newton's first law of motion.
Ma'am, pushing a car.
Okay.
Throwing
One
a
more.
ball.
Throwing a ball. Okay. Then next question to whom? Tom Sinden, Newton's second law of motion.
The rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied, and it takes place in the direction in which the force acts.
Okay, and it is takes place in the direction of force. Okay, very good. Then Mary Angelina, mathematical equation for calculating force.
Ma'am, proportion to change in momentum by time taken.
I don't need the entire explanation, only the final equation. Equation for calculating force. F is equal to?
F is equal to ma.
F is equal to ma. It is the product of mass and acceleration. Jyoti, SI unit of force.
Newton.
Newton. Okay, all right. Then Alantina, any one application of Newton's second law of motion.
A cricket player catching the ball.
Whenever a cricket ball catching the ball, who move his hand backwards. It is an application of Newton's second law. Or a heap of sand or a cushion is provided to an high jump or long jumper. That is also an application of Newton's second law of motion. Okay, so today we are going to discuss the Newton's third law of motion. Before that, one more term is there in regarding with that of the Newton's second law. That is what is known as impulse. Have you heard about the term impulse? Are you familiar with this term impulse? No. Okay. So write the next heading, impulse. Okay. It's a very small topic. Impulse is nothing. It is a large force acting within a short interval of time. If a large force is act within a short interval of time is known as impulse. So write the definition for impulse. Large force acts within a short interval of time, or large force acting in a short interval of time is known as impulse. Okay. Large force acting in a short interval of time is known as impulse. A large force acting in a short interval of time is known as impulse. Okay, so suppose you just imagine if we want to pierce a nail on a wall with the help of an hammer, we are applying a large force within a short interval of time in order to pierce a nail on the wall. Or you just imagine if you throw a ball on the wall, what happens? Is it stick there on the wall? Is it stick there? No, it is bouncing back at the given instant of time. It is bouncing back. So we can say the ball exerts a large force. That is why quickly or suddenly it is bouncing back from the wall. Okay, so the ball exerts a large force within a very short interval of time. This is what is known as impulse. So impulse is a large force act within a short interval of time is known as impulse. So now we can see the mathematical expression for calculating the impulse. Equation for calculating impulse. So impulse is equal to, there is no particular letter in order to represent impulse. We are usually write it as impulse as it is. Impulse is equal to, it is the force, a large force F act in a very short interval of time, in a very short interval of time. So how we can represent the time? It's a very short time. It is represented by dt, not t. T is the entire time. Here it is a large force which is act within a very short interval of time. Okay, so the short interval of time is represented by dt, a small time. F is equal to dt, or we can write impulse is equal to, what is F force? MA. MA into dt. Here we know that force F is equal to MA. So impulse is equal to MA into dt. Again, it is equal to M is the mass. And what is the acceleration? Recall all the, yes, it is dv by dt. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. So m into dv by dt into this dt. So here this dt and this dt cancels. So we get impulse. Impulse is equal to m into dv. Mass into dv. What do you mean by dv? It is the change in velocity, a small change in velocity. That is what is known as dv. So impulse is equal to mass into change in velocity. Again, we know that dv is nothing. It is the change in velocity. That is equal to, what do you mean by change in velocity? You know the answer, but then you are hesitant. Unmute and say. Change in velocity means difference between,
Acceleration.
yes, difference between two velocities. That is final velocity minus initial velocity, v minus u. This is what is known as change in velocity. So here we have final velocity. Change in velocity is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity, that is equal to v minus u. Therefore, the above equation becomes impulse. Impulse is equal to mass into, instead of dv, here we have change in velocity v minus u. That is impulse is equal to, open the bracket, m into v minus u. It becomes mv minus m into u, mu. So impulse is equal to mv minus mu. What is mv? What is mv? Product of mass into velocity. Momentum. So here we have v, capital V. Okay, mass into final velocity. So we can say it is the final momentum. Here we have product of mass into u. U also velocity, but it is the initial velocity. Product of mass and initial velocity. So mu represents Initial momentum. Okay. So in the first term, it is the product of mass and the final velocity. So it represents the final momentum. The second term is the product of mass and the initial velocity. So it represents initial momentum. So here our equation becomes the difference between final momentum and the initial momentum. So we can say impulse is the change in momentum of an object. Okay. It is the difference between final momentum and initial momentum. Difference between final momentum and initial momentum means it is the change in momentum. So here from this we can say impulse is the change in momentum of an object. Okay. Impulse is the change in momentum of an object. And one more characteristics is there for impulse. As we told here, impulse is nothing. It is the change in momentum. Impulse is equal to momentum. What momentum? It is the change in momentum. Difference between the final momentum and that of the initial momentum. Then what about the unit of impulse? Unit of impulse. Any idea? Impulse is nothing. It is the momentum itself. It is a change in momentum of an object. Final momentum minus initial momentum. Use your brain. Then what about the kilogram meter per second? The same unit, impulse have the same unit as that of the momentum, because impulse is nothing. It is equal to momentum, change in momentum of an object. So both of these physical quantities have the same unit. It is kilogram meter per second. And what about the dimension?
MLT raised to minus 1.
Yes, MLT raised to minus 1. So unit of impulse is kilogram meter per second. Similarly, the dimension is MLT raised to minus 1. So here from this, it is very clear that the two physical quantities, impulse and momentum, both of them have the same unit and same dimensional formula. So whenever we discuss about the dimensions from the chapter units or measurement, we already told that some of the physical quantities, they having the same dimensions. So here we have the two physical quantities. They are impulse and momentum. Both of them have the same unit and same dimension formula, that is MLT raised to minus 1. It is because of the reason impulse of an object. Impulse is the large force act within a short interval of time. It is nothing. It is equal to the change in momentum of that particular object. So that is why both of these physical quantities shares the same unit and same dimensional formula. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So here we introduce a new physical quantity, that is impulse. Impulse is the large force act in a short interval of time. There are a lot of examples are there. You can collect it from our daily life. And the mathematical expression for impulse is force, F into dt. Here this dt indicates the force is act within a very short interval of time. When a small interval of time, that is why we represented it by d, the term d. So impulse is equal to force into dt, where F is nothing. It is the product of mass into acceleration, ma into dt. Again, here the a is replaced by the rate of change of velocity, dv by dt. So m into dv by dt into dt. We cancel these two dt's. So we get impulse is equal to m into dv. This dv is nothing. It is the change in velocity. Final velocity minus initial velocity. So our equation becomes impulse is equal to m into v minus u, where v is the final velocity, u is the initial velocity. Again, the expression becomes impulse is equal to mv minus mu, where mv is the final momentum, mu is the initial momentum. So we can say impulse of an object is the change in momentum of that particular object. Both of them have the same unit and a dimension. Okay, so that's all about the impulse. Now we have the next topic, Newton's third law of motion. Newton's third law of motion. What is Newton's third law of motion? Newton's third law of motion: to every action, there is an equivalent opposite reaction. Even though if we are asking anyone to the concept of physics, all of them have know this law. To every action, there is an equivalent opposite reaction. All of them are thorough with the Newton's third law of motion. Can you say some examples for this Newton's third law? So Newton's third law of motion states that to every action, there is an equivalent opposite reaction. We can correlate this Newton's third law of motion with that of our daily life. It's a very mutual relationship between our siblings, right? I hope that all of them have siblings, or at least you are correl with your neighboring friends anyway. Okay. I also apply this Newton's third law of motion in my house along with my brother. Okay. So whenever they are beat you, what do you do? If you are a very good student or good brother or sister, you say, oh, no problem. If you are follows the path of Jesus Christ or Mahatma Gandhi, then you will be say, oh, no problem. You beat me. No, I will suffer. Okay. Now you just imagine, in order to apply the Newton's third law of motion, you are not a good student or no, you are not a good brother or sister. What do? At the same instant of time, you beat them back, right? This is what is known as Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there will be an equivalent opposite reaction. Okay. So what do you think? Does this action and reaction forces takes place on the same object? It takes place on the same body? It will depend upon you, right? Not in the case of quarreling between the brother or sister. In normal cases, what do you think? Does the action and reaction forces takes place on the same object? No, it will be depend. It takes place on different bodies. Action comes from another object. That is the force exerted. Action and reaction are nothing. These are the forces. Action and reaction, the term in this Newton's third law, here we can see for every action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. This action and reaction is actually the two forces, action force and reaction force. What do you mean by action force? It is the force exerted by one object on the second object. And what do you mean by reaction force? It is the force exerted by the second object on the first object. So here we can say actually this action and reaction force are the two forces which is exerted or experienced by the two different bodies. Okay. So in order to explain the Newton's third law of motion, here we need to consider the two objects. Action takes place in one object and the reaction takes place in the another object. What about their direction? It is opposite in the direction. So we can say if the 10 Newton forces comes from the other side, at the same instant of time, the 10 Newton force is returned back, but it is in the opposite side. Okay. So here the two forces which are equal in its magnitude, but opposite in its direction. So that is what is Newton's third law of motion state. For every action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. But these two action and reaction forces experienced or exerted on two different objects, they are equal in its magnitude, but opposite in its direction. Is it clear? Okay. Now the application of Newton's third law of motion. So here you can see some of the terms associated with the Newton's third law of motion. Action and reaction are just forces. Here in this law, you can see to every action and there will be an opposite reaction. Here action and reaction are just forces. The forces always occurs in pairs. Okay. Action and reaction do not act on the same body. It will be act on the different bodies, but simultaneously occurs. Though action and reaction forces are equal in magnitude, but do not produce equal acceleration in the two bodies on which they are act. They have equal in magnitude, but opposite in direction, and they are not produce equal acceleration in two bodies. Don't need to copy down this statement, only the note, special notes. Action and reaction are just forces. The forces are always occurs in pairs and they are act on different bodies, not in the same bodies, and they are occurs simultaneously. Both the action and reaction forces are equal in its magnitude but opposite in its direction. Okay, so that's all about the Newton's third law of motion and some of the practical applications of Newton's third law of motion. Sometimes you may be heard about the recoil velocity of gun. It's one of the application of Newton's third law of motion. Recoil velocity of gun or rocket propulsion. I think rocket propulsion is something that is more related to that of the conservation of momentum. That is what we are going to discuss next. So write the applications of Newton's third law of motion. We will discuss about this recoil velocity in detail in the next session. So write the applications. Applications of Newton's third law. Recoil velocity or recoil of gun. Recoiling of gun. The second one, bouncing back of ball from a wall. You can find your own applications for the Newton's third law of motion and you can write the applications of Newton's third law of motion. So according to Newton's third law, we know that we have two forces are two bodies are the first object exerts a force on the second object. They are equal in its magnitude, but opposite in its direction. F1 is always equal to minus of F2. And this minus of F2 is because to show us a direction, because the reaction forces came from the opposite side. So we must put a negative sign there. We will discuss it about it detail in the next session. So that's all about the Newton's third law of motion. Now we are going to discuss the next topic, conservation of linear momentum. Conservation of momentum. Write the next heading. Conservation of momentum. conservation of momentum. Now we have an idea about what do you mean by momentum, right? Momentum is the product of mass and velocity. What do you mean by its conservation? We are heard about the term conservation of energy, conservation of mass, but here in physics, conservation of momentum. What do you mean by conservation of momentum? John Philip, any idea?
Ma'am, not letting the momentum change or decrease or increase.
It is neither decrease nor decrease, right? Or in much more
Not
clearly,
increase.
it is not increase, only decrease.
Ma'am, it does not decrease or increase.
Okay, it does not increase or decrease. Okay, so in much more clear, we know that what do you mean by conservation of energy? We are heard about or we have studied the law of conservation of energy. What is the law of conservation of energy states? Law of conservation of energy.
Energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yes, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be transferred from one body to another body. So here you have the same law for the law of conservation of momentum. Instead of this term energy, you just replace it with momentum. So according to law of conservation of momentum, the law states that the momentum can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be transferred from one body to another body. Okay, so this is what is known as law of conservation of momentum. That is, the total momentum of a system is always remains constant. Okay, so write the law of conservation of momentum. Write the law. The law states that momentum can neither be created nor be destroyed. Momentum can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can transfer from one body to another. It can transfer from one body to another. Or in simpler words, we can state this law of conservation of momentum in another way. Or in the absence of an external force, the total momentum of a system remains constant. In the absence of an external force, the total momentum of a system remains constant. Okay, so this is what is known as law of conservation of momentum. That is, momentum can neither be created nor be destroyed. Yes, the second one. Okay, in the absence of external force, according to the second law or second statement, same thing, the law of conservation of momentum. In the absence of external force, the total momentum of the system remains constant. In the absence of external force, the total momentum of the system remains constant.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So actually this law of conservation of momentum is the direct consequence of Newton's third law of motion. From the Newton's first law of motion, we get a definition for force, or we are introducing another term, inertia. From the Newton's second law of motion, we derive a mathematical equation for calculating the force. Now, from the Newton's third law of motion, we are introducing another concept, that is what is known as conservation of momentum. This law of conservation of momentum is actually the direct consequence of Newton's third law of motion. Here we are use this Newton's third law in order to derive an expression for the conservation of momentum. So first of all, we can see some how we can say the momentum is said to be conserved. Okay, so for that, according to second law of motion, according to Newton's second law, We know that the rate of change of momentum, dp by dt, according to Newton's second law, we know that the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to what? Is directly proportional to force, applied force. Very good. It is directly proportional to applied force. So according to Newton's second law, F is directly proportional to dp by dt, right? Or we know that here, in order to replace this proportionality constant, we introduce a constant here, proportionality sign. We introduce a constant. F is equal to k into dp by dt. And we know that the proportionality constant k is equal to 1. Therefore, our equation becomes F is equal to dp by dt. F is equal to dp by dt. Okay. So from Newton's second law, we know that the rate of change of momentum dp by dt is directly proportional to applied force F. In order to replace this proportionality sign, here we introduce a constant k. It becomes F is equal to k into dp by dt. The value of proportionality constant k is equal to 1. Again, the equation becomes F is equal to dp by dt. Now write the most important statement. In the absence of external force. Next, write the statement. In the absence of external force. In the absence of external force. That is, absence of external force means here the applied force will be equal to 0. In the absence of external force, that is, if F is equal to 0, the above equation becomes, in the absence of external force, that is, if F is equal to 0, the above equation becomes, yes, Jewel,
0.
what is equal to 0? If F is equal to 0, it has an RHS.
Some dv by dt. No.
Yes. If F is equal to 0, we can say that dp by dt is equal to 0, right? dp by dt is equal to 0. So in the above equation, we have F is equal to dp by dt. So here we consider a condition if the external force is equal to 0. External force means if the applied force will be equal to 0, then F is equal to 0, which implies 0 is equal to dp by dt. Or we can say dp by dt is equal to 0. That is, the derivative of a particular physical quantity is equal to 0. And we already studied some basic rules of derivation. Whenever this derivative of a function will be equal to 0, when the derivative of a function is equal to 0, d by dt of something that is equal to 0. What is here? d by dt of a constant. Very good. d by dt of a constant. If it is a constant, the derivative of a particular thing will be equal to 0 if it is a constant. So this equation implies d by dt of p is equal to 0, right? dp by dt means derivative of the momentum is equal to 0. If the derivative of a function is equal to 0, which implies that here we find the derivative of a constant. Therefore, we can say that here the momentum, the term P is a constant. P is nothing, it is the momentum. If the derivative of any function will be equal to 0, which implies that we are find the derivative of a constant. So in the absence of external force, F is equal to 0, then it becomes a dp by dt is equal to 0. Derivative of momentum is equal to 0. That is, momentum is a constant. P is the momentum, momentum is a constant. If P is a constant, which implies P is equal to, we know that P is equal to mv. If P is a constant, which implies mv is a constant. The product of mass and velocity is also a constant. So this is what is the basis of law of conservation of momentum. So the basic condition is this: In the absence of external force, in the absence of external force, the total momentum of a system remains constant, or the rate of change of momentum of a body is always remains a constant. In the absence of external force, the rate of change of momentum of a body or the total momentum of the entire system remains a constant. This is what is the basis of this law of conservation of momentum. So whenever you write the total momentum of a system remains constant, you must add the condition in the absence of external force. In the absence of external force, only the total momentum of the system remains constant. Okay, now we have an expression for this conservation of momentum. We have an equation for this conservation of momentum, and we use this equation in order to explain all its application about the recoil velocity of gun, and we are using the same equation for calculating the rocket propulsion and all. So write the next heading, expression for conservation of momentum. Expression for conservation of momentum. Here we consider two bodies. Consider two bodies. Consider two bodies with mass m1 and m2. Consider two bodies with mass m1 and m2 such that m1 is moving with a velocity u1 and m2 is moving with a velocity u2. Consider two bodies m1 and m2 with the mass m1 and m2. They are moving with the velocities u1 and u2 respectively. These are the velocities of the two bodies. They are before collision. Okay. So here we consider the two bodies m1 and m2 moving with the velocities u1 and u2 respectively. After sometimes they are collide with each other. This body m1 and m2, both of them are collide with each other. After sometimes they are collide with each other. After the collision, these two bodies are moving with the velocities v1 and v2 respectively. After the collision, these bodies are moving with the velocities v1 and v2 respectively. Okay, so here we have the three cases: before collision, collision, and after collision. So before collision, we have two objects with the mass m1 and m2 with the velocity. Yes, is there any doubt? With the velocities u1 and u2 respectively before collision. After sometimes they are collide with each other. These two objects are collide with each other. After the collision, they are moving with the velocities v1 and v2 respectively. So here the velocity of the object remains changed. After the collision, it becomes v1 and v2 instead of u1 and u2. Okay, so here we are going to find out some expression for the change in velocity and acceleration for the body m1 and m2. I think here not m1, it is m2. Why you are not correcting me? Okay, so m1 and m2 moving with the velocities u1 and u2. After collision, it becomes m1 and m2 moving with the velocities V1 and V2. Mass remains the same. Mass is always remains a constant. So here we can write change in velocity of body M1. Change in velocity of object, not M1, M2. Change in velocity of M2. What is the change in velocity of M2 here? Before collision, the velocity is u2, and after collision, the velocity is v2. Then what about the change in velocity of the object? M2.
V2 minus U2.
It is v2 minus u2. v2 minus u2. It is the change in velocity of m2. Okay. Due to this change in velocity, we know that surely there will be an acceleration should be there for this object m2. Then acceleration of the object m2. Acceleration of the object m2 is equal to what is the equation for acceleration? Change in velocity by time, right? So here change in velocity is v2 minus u2 divided by time taken. I think it's almost the time. We are not finishing the derivation. So anyway, we can stop at up to here. Okay, so kindly go through these topics. Today we were discussed about impulse, Newton's third law of motion, its application, and here we introduces a new law that is a direct consequence of the Newton's third law of motion, which is the conservation of momentum. Kindly go through up to this topic before the next class. Okay, now let me take your attendance.